This episode contains discussions of sensitive topics, including sexual content, violence, and other controversial materials that may be distressing to some listeners. Please take care of your mental health and emotional well being while listening. If you feel overwhelmed or triggered at any point, we encourage you to pause the episode or keep it entirely. Your well being comes first.
You're listening to the Hot Topics podcast with Psycho 4081, the lovely Lady Lamb Chop, and the fabulous Thelonious Feather. Let's get into it. Welcome everyone to another podcast, Hot Topics podcast. I'm your host for the day, Psycho 4081, and Lamb Chop couldn't make it. Thelonious Feather is busy. She has a new assignment actually, and wish her all the best in her new endeavor. She'll join us here and there, but yeah, she's going to be pretty busy. So today, as you heard our trigger warning, we're going to talk about Nigeria and some of the things that have been happening over the last, I guess, year or so, but more so recently. You know, there's a lot of fear going on, and people have been talking genocide and all types of things. So we're going to talk about that. And again, if some of the things we're going to talk about might trigger some people, so please feel free to catch us on the next episode. And I truly understand. But I'm gonna start with some other news though before we get into that. Some things that's going on. The sports world, we had a young man, 24-year-old young man that played for the Dallas Cowboys, took his life yesterday. He was on the active roster apparently, and the details are coming out slowly, but apparently there was a little chase with the police, and when they found him, he suffered from what they call a self-inflicted gunshot wound. So prayers to his family and friends and his teammates. Other news, and I hate to say bad news, but if anybody knows anything about NFL football, we have Antonio Brown, who was a Hall of Fame player. He's not in the Hall of Fame, but he's a Hall of Fame caliber player, probably one of the best, but he just couldn't get his mind right. So sometime last year, I believe it was, that he got involved with an incident in a bar or a club down in Florida, I believe it was, and there were some shots fired. And initially they, exonerated him on the scene, basically. Then actually when they found the footage, saw a little bit more details, they made him a suspect in a murder. So being who he is, he went to Dubai, and so recently they extradited him back to the U.S. So he was arrested and brought back to the U.S. So we'll see what's going on with that. I guess as the information comes out. Congratulations to the Los Angeles Dodgers. They won the 2025 World Series, beating the Toronto Blue Jays. So congratulations to them. And let's see, that's baseball. Hockey season just started. Football, we're at mid-season. They had the trade deadline. There's a lot of things going on with that. So domestically, that we had a election Tuesday. And I believe it was California, New Jersey, New York City had a mayoral election. The state of Virginia, governor, lieutenant governor, and some other ones. But the Democrats swept, and congratulations to all those candidates. The exit polls stated that the overwhelming response was due to the displeasure with the Trump administration and the government shutdown. So in case you guys didn't know, wherever you are, the U.S. is in the, I guess, the longest government shutdown in history. And it's because in the Senate, you need to have 51 votes to pass the bill or the legislation. However, there's a thing called a filibuster where it gives you unlimited debate. And to close the debate, you need 60 votes. They don't have the 60 votes because the Democrats won't give them the 60 votes. And the budget hasn't been passed. So they're fighting over, the Democrats want some of the ACA or Obamacare, what they call it, extended. So your health care rates don't go up, your premiums don't go up, and some of the other little things that like happen to do with Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, all that type of stuff. And the other side is not budging. So, you know, I'm proud that the Democrats are standing their ground for once, for the, you know, average working American or people that need more help. So, you know, I know it's hard for everybody out there who's doing the getting furloughed or even fired. Those who have to work because they are essential employees without pay, and those who are sitting home who can't, you know, do anything because they don't have money. So holiday season's coming up here in the U.S. and my heart goes out to you, but I know there's state governments that's trying to support you as best they can. Hopefully it'll be over with and without too much delay. Delay. Flights have been restricted. I think it's minimized or limited, like 10% down in certain cities or whatever. I've heard the lines have been 4 hours long. I guess they don't have enough people and, you know, enough workers. So if you're going to take a flight, please go super early, super duper early. I imagine that the airlines are not flying to different places, some of the places they normally fly, or they have less flights going there. And also what that means, prices go up. Just something to add to the whole inflation that we're going through in this country. So just be mindful about that. Anything else in recent news? Gaza still have I don't even know what to call it because there's never been a ceasefire. They called it a ceasefire, but you know, Israel's still bombing them. I don't know what's going on over there, but I think it's time. I think a lot of countries are getting fed up and starting to take action. So we'll keep an eye on what's going on over there. But we definitely need to get into a episode to talk about Gaza and Israel. But we'll see how that goes later on down the line. So anyway, we're going to get into this episode. It's called Nigeria's Shadow: Kidnapping and Murders in 2025. Yeah. Sounds horrible, doesn't it? Well, it is. So we're going to dig a little deep into this, I'm going to say, shocking surge in kidnappings and murders. And I guess people in Nigeria may say it's not a surge. They've been doing it for a long time. It just, you know, now it's starting to affect other people. You know how things could be localized, but then it spreads, you know, and it starts getting a lot of attention. Well, apparently, in May of 2025, just in May, there was over 635 people killed and another 182 people abducted across Nigeria. And for those who don't know, abducted, kidnapping. And that marked the highest monthly death toll so far this year in Nigeria. They have the National Human Rights Commission has been tracking it, and they've tracked more than 3,000 kidnappings. 3,000 kidnappings. Yes, you heard me right. And nearly 3,600 killings between January of 2024 and April of 2025. So this is before that month. They had that surge, but what is that? A year and a few months, in a matter of 15 months, 3,000 kidnappings, 3,600 killings. And if you didn't know, Nigeria is also sort of like the U.S. where they have states. So I don't remember how many states they have, but they have, I believe it's 36. Don't quote me on that. What was it? 36 states. That's my guess. Yep, they do. Oh, I'm so smart. So anyway, they have the 36 states. And states such as Kaduna, which is in the north, Benue, and I'm a mess. This podcast is talking about Nigeria. I already know I'm going to mess up these names, but I'm gonna try my best. Benue, Katsina, and Borno were hit the hardest. So those 4 states were hit the hardest when it comes to the kidnappings and the murders. And I know Kaduna's in the north. I'm not sure about the other ones, but if I had to guess, I'm going to say they are also in the north. And let me see if I can verify that. But as you know, I think the north is actually predominantly Muslim. And obviously, so you may have more activity with certain terrorist groups like, or extremist groups like Boko Haram, and some of the, I guess, fighting with the different ethnic groups over, land or whatever. But let me see if I can pull up a map of Nigeria. I'll tell you where these states are. Nigeria, and we said Kaduna, which is in the north. Katsina, which is right up in that's probably one of the most northern states. It borders Niger. And Borno, another northern state that borders Niger and Cameroon. And what was the fourth one? I might as well just look in the north. I said Borno, Katsina, Kaduna, and excuse me. Oh, I guess that was it. Borno, Kaduna, Katsina, and Benue. I don't know where Benue is. I don't even think I've ever heard that one, but let's see. That doesn't look like it's in the north. That is, I don't know where it is actually. If anybody could tell me where the state is, because I don't see it on the map. BENUE, Benue. Let me know. Oh, I know where. Okay, it borders Cameroon as well, but that's a little bit in the east. I would say that's southeast. You guys tell me where that is. But anyway, it's south of the capital, Abuja. But anyway, behind these numbers, there were daily attacks, terrorists ambush communities in those places we just mentioned. You had pirates abducting travelers on the roads in a place called Bayelsa. And I believe that is in the south. That's near Port Harcourt. So that, I guess that's a little different, but every day, ordinary people just vanish right off the streets and roads. So, and I'm sure there's going to be things or incidents that happen that's not reported or hasn't been reported yet. So that's a tragedy in itself. But to get a little bit more into that, I'm gonna go down here and get some more information on that, because that's horrific. That is definitely horrific. And let's see what my trusty news source says. Talk about this real quick. I'll read it from Humangle. The Human Angle. So I guess if the Human Angle, you can check that out at human-angle.com. or Hume, HUMANGLE, media.com. So basically, they say these figures underscore the increasing vulnerability of Nigerians to insecurity and conflict. It also represents an increase in the number of fatalities compared to previous months of the year into 2025. So the tracker, they recorded 590 deaths and 192 killings. That means fatalities increased by approximately 7.6% in May, while the number of abductions slightly declined, which is still high. It's really, really high. Now this information comes from, again, I'm gonna say Human Angle, HUMANGLE tracker. It's a data-driven thing where it tracks incidents of this nature, documents violent attacks, communal clashes, road accidents, building collapses, fires, strategic development, all of kidnappings, femicide. So they report on all that type of stuff, but they even presented a little timeline. May 1st, in Nigeria's south, suspected pirates abducted 4 people. That's what we're talking about in that Bayelsa state. The security forces in Kebbi State in the north west confirmed a lone abduction of a farm manager. Okay, that was May 1st. Then in Benue State, which is north central Nigeria, we talked about earlier, 4 people were killed in an attack by suspected terrorists in a community near the government area. Similarly, 2 police operatives manning a checkpoint in Enugu, I guess in the country's southeast, were killed following a terrorist attack. So I guess the police are not safe either, which is really could strike fear. If they could attack the police and kill police, then what does it mean for them? They said Lakura, and I messed this up. Lakurawa, Lakurawa, in Kebbi mounted a devastating attack that killed no fewer than 13 hunters. So, I said, meanwhile, in River State, the police command confirmed the rescue of 2 Ghanaian women abducted in the state. That's all that's on May 1st. That's ridiculous. And I told you about the whole petroleum thing. Or maybe that was the other podcast. But a tanker fully loaded with petroleum fell off and exploded in Jigawa State, spilling the petrol on the road. A tragedy averted by swift response of security agencies as locals scooped up the spillage. All right, so they had another state, Bachi State. Assailants raided the house of a former local government chairman and assassinated him. Wow. And 3 communities in Sokoto State were attacked by terrorists, claiming 11 lives. That is the next day. May 3rd, 2 soldiers of the 27th Task Force Battalion were killed in an attack in Yobe State, while in Taraba, the military neutralized the terrorists and recovered arms. So they're really fighting over there. May 4th, a local security outfit and terrorists clashed in the same state, Bachi State, leading to the killing of 25 people, both the vigilante and the terrorists. So I guess that the local security outfit was made of people that they volunteered, so they called them vigilantes. But hey, you need self-defense. And then in Benue, I should have had Felonious here to pronounce these words, but 2 people were killed and 4 abducted in an attack by terrorists plying the Atukpo Adoko Road of the state. I'm just going to skip some of the names of these places because I can't do it. So again, police in Sokoto, police confirmed the arrest of a notorious gun runner and recovered arms, including bullets and a pistol. So it's got people out there fueling that stuff. And in the Southwest, 3 people also lost their lives to accidents in Lagos and Ogun State. Police did thwart a kidnapping incident in Anambra State. This is all on May 4th. These guys are busy. Um, so in Merritt and Gashish communities in the Plateau State woke up to the killing of 6 residents by terrorists. And in Kano, I know that area, armed robbers stabbed a man returning from a mosque after attending prayer, which is ridiculous. They really have some things going on here. May 6th, in Aqua Ibom, suspected cultists murdered a farmer in his apartment located at the Etim Ekpo local government area. And similarly, gunmen ambushed a vehicle, killing the driver, hijacking the 18-seater bus in Imo State. Now, to the average person listening to this, you would think the entire country is lawless. That's what you would think. I would caution you, even if I'm giving you these statistics and it sounds horrific, check with family and friends and see what's going on. It seems like the stuff is getting really out of hand. And I don't know if this is the one I was talking about before, where in Ogun, a lady was found dead and mutilated along the OGTV road in the state capital. No, I saw a video where a lady looked like she was being kidnapped. She was just in her panties, and I couldn't understand it, but it seemed like she was pleading for her life. And then the video goes off, and another video, continues, and it showed a woman's body that was dismembered, and they had it on a tarp on the back of a pickup truck. It was the most horrific thing I've seen probably in my life. And then her private area, the between the legs part, had been cut out. So that whole area had been cut out. So I can't imagine what would possess somebody, even if you wanted to kidnap somebody, or I really can't imagine what goes on in a person's mind where they can want to kill a woman, but mutilate the body. That is so, for a spiritual people, that's so ungodly, and I don't even know what to say about that one, but I know it was a horrific thing, and it was on video. Then you had on May 7th, there was a battle between troops of the Nigerian military and then elements of insurgents in the Borno that left both parties with a record of casualties. Terrorists killed 7 people across 2 local governments in Benue State. And you keep hearing me say terrorists because obviously they're having an issue with that. Terrorists killed a police inspector in Port Harcourt in an ambush. Let's see what else you got here. Oh, this is huge. In Kogi State, 37 kidnapped victims were rescued following a terrorist attack on their moving vehicle, with 7 others still missing. So they're at war. They're literally at war. May 9th, terrorists in Delta State demanded a $50 million naira ransom after kidnapping Zubuki Bright. In Kwara, a petrol dealer and his manager were whisked away by terrorists who pressed for a 200 million naira ransom to free the hostages. So obviously, with any criminal organization, the thing is money. I don't see being poverty stricken that would take somebody to do these heinous crimes, total disregard or disrespect of life. They also had another coordinated attacks at different communities in Benue, Beneu, that left 23 dead. And then on that same day, Nigerian troops in Katsina State eliminated some criminal elements terrorizing parts of the state, recovering caches of weapons, destroying terror camps, So those weapons must be coming from. I don't. I don't want to guess, but it has to be coming from out of the state. You know, they obviously got that gun runner, but they're being funded by somebody, and they're being. You know, there's no weapons that I know of that is produced in Nigeria or Niger or any of those countries around there. So they're being funded by somebody. Then you had terrorists in the Delta State abducted a lady farmer in an incident that prompted a swift response from vigilantes in the area. So that's good to know. That's good to know that people are coming in and, you know, defending themselves and others. And that's what it's going to take. They had Zamfara, if anybody's heard of that. Terrorists in Zamfara disguised in police uniforms killed a teacher during an attack on a government secondary school. And they kidnapped 3 women. So yeah, these are horrific things, and I could go on and on and on. May 11th, AK-47 rifle was recovered from a suspected gun runner nabbed by troops operating in Plateau State. So I guess the council chairperson imposed a curfew, and told them to arrest. Impose a curfew to arrest, I guess, whoever violates the curfew, because of the renewed killing that's been going on. And man, where are you getting these guns? Just as bad as the U.S. May 12th, renewed terrorist attacks in Borno left military positions dislocated with many killed in a Lagos accident. No, I said those things up, and that's one thing. Military positions dislocated with many killed. Oh, they're going after the military as well. Terrorists in Benue attacked communities, killing no fewer than 7 people. And during a busy market day, you imagine you've been to different places where they have the big markets on both sides, and you see just tons and tons of people walking by, handling their business, trying to, you know, make their sales or buy stuff. But they had a gunman abducted 5 people, and this was in Dogon Rua community in Plateau State. And then I guess they looted their foodstuffs. God, and in Ondo State, gunmen invaded the house of a local politician and kidnapped him. I'm not going to Nigeria. I'm not. I've just decided that's going to be it for me. May 13th, the youth are getting involved. That's good. And Katsina thwarted a terrorist attack, forcing the terrorists to retreat. I don't know what the youth had to fight off the terrorists or what the terrorists had, but they were successful. Then on May 14th, terrorists killed 8 people at a camp community in Plateau State. May 15th, gunmen killed 2 people in Anambra State. Wow. So, yeah, I'm not going to go into all of it because it's a lot. We're talking about May, and I haven't even gotten to halfway through the state. I mean, through the month. They arrested a wanted kidnapper traveling for the Hajj pilgrimage. Politician was killed by abductors. That's May 17th. They got somebody at the airport. Terrorists massacred 15 farmers in Kebbi State, leaving 3 others with sustained injuries. Leave the farmers alone. Jeez. And I'm not sure, but somebody told me it was the Fulanis are, if I can recall, they are herdsmen. They're not farmers. They're herdsmen. But we'll get into that. Somebody can call in and let us know, and drop us an email. They had on the 19th. No, let's go back to the 18th. A terrorist in Zamfara was murdered in a military offensive. Okay, I guess that's a good thing. May 19th. A man set his family ablaze, killing one of his daughters. And terrorists attacked someone in Sokoto State and abducted several residents. Then in Katsina, that was attacked by bandits rustling many cattle. Oh, cattle rustlers! Back in the old Wild Wild West, that was a death sentence. You get hung for rustling cattle. So they did rescue 3 hostages in Kogi State, but the numbers are not adding up. They're not equal. There's way more people getting murdered and kidnapped than there are people who are getting rescued. So May 20th in Edo, that wasn't an act of terrorism, but a man beat his wife to death. And I don't know what the cause of that was, but I'm not going to put that on him because we see that here every day in the USA. Let's see, any more? I hope not. Terrorists in Zamfara abducted a medical doctor. That's on May 21st. And 7 ISWAP members were reportedly killed by troops in a counter-terrorism operation in Borno State. So they are doing something, but it just seems like it's not enough. Then in Kogi State, the same day, May 21st, a retired Army major was kidnapped and 2 soldiers were killed. 2 others were killed by terrorists who laid siege on another place. But I mean, this is like, so far it's been every day in May, just in May. They did foil a kidnapping on the 22nd and rescued 3 people. Another one in, this is Benue, a communal clash left 4 injured. And it says state pronounced an eviction order on all herders around the community. So I think that's what she was referring to, was the herdsmen. And I guess they're fighting over land to graze. That's just my guess. May 23rd, the troops raided a terrorist hideout and neutralized 1 terrorist. That was in Plateau State. And then they, in Borno, combined troops from the Army and Air Force opposed Boko Haram elements and killed 16 insurgents. Wow. On that same day, 2 communities in Plateau State were attacked by terrorists, killing 3 people, including a retired police officer, a female student. No, that was just a retired police officer. I don't think that that next incident wasn't an act of terrorism. The 25th, police disclosed the killing of a notorious kidnapped suspect. Like I said, the numbers are not adding up. They're not evening out. So, and I can't tell you if there have been, like you see here in the news that Christians or Muslims are doing it or being the victims. But in Ondo State, the 3 members of the Deeper Life Church were abducted during Bible studies right on the church premises. So they don't even respect the sanctity of religion. And on the same day, another person, this is a Zamfara state, 1 person was abducted and scores killed during a terrorist attack. Yeah, they may need a little help. I might have changed my perspective on that. May 27th, terrorists gunned down 2 herders in Abuja community and injured a local vigilante member. 7 people were killed, Plateau State, by armed criminals. Ooh, this is horrific too. In Zamfara State, 11 people were killed during an attack on one of the villages, and 117 people were abducted. How do you abduct 117 people? How? May 28th, terrorists attacked a Nasarawa state traditional ruler and kidnapped him because they have the chieftains. On the same day, this is the 29th, those armed herders killed 3 residents of Agan, Agan, a community in Benue State. The next day, the 30th, I'm glad we're getting out of May, terrorists killed 2 persons in an attack launched on a local government area in Katsina State. Same day, Nigerian troops killed 60 terrorists in Borno State. So these are big numbers. These are very big numbers. So I guess we can get out of May. Nope. May 31st in Borno, IED, improvised explosive device, exploded and killed 9 people at a bus stop um, in a village in Guzamala local government area, Borno State. Then God, it's just one person died in the clash between residents of a community and the local environment task force. And again, in Benue State, a passenger was abducted aboard a commercial vehicle commuting on the Owukpa Orokam Road in Agbadibo local government area. I'm trying to pronounce these words. I'm trying. And then finally, police officers in Abuja, which is the capital, foiled a child trafficking attempt in the nation's capital. Okay, kudos to the police officers who did that. But that was just the month of May. The month of May. That's horrific. I don't know what to say. Anyways, we're gonna talk briefly about some other things and then get into it. I don't want to keep talking about all these different things because it's getting me depressed. Literally, it's getting me depressed. That was just May of 2025, and I'm not talking about any of the stuff that's happened from June on down to November. Okay, so they had a award-winning journalist. Her name was Donu Kagbara, and she was talking about her ordeal of being abducted from her home in Port Harcourt, which is down in that eastern part. She was taken by armed men. She spent 2 weeks captive in a hut that's on stilts in a mangrove swamp. Let me say that again. 2 weeks captive in a hut on stilts in a mangrove swamp. And her captors actually demanded $2 million ransom. Usually you'll see Naira, but this says $2 million ransom. So, and she goes and she describes the brutal and the human side of these incidents. She says the human side, I guess she realized that many of the kidnappers themselves were young men that was lured or forced into the violent lives, maybe due to, poverty or just being corrupted by, some of these other organizations. So, there's always another side, just like in the movies, there's another side of these things, but not justifying anybody kidnapping, murdering, and all that other type stuff. So that, to me, there's no excuse, but there is a different side. So obviously that doesn't end with adults. So they had one case where 6 sisters were kidnapped near Abuja, and then they demanded a $10,000 ransom, and I guess the family couldn't meet the $10,000, which is a lot, especially in Nigeria. I'm hoping this. Well, it doesn't matter, but it's $10,000 is a lot of money. When they couldn't make the ransom, one of the daughters, who was a university student, was murdered, and her body was left by the roadside. Yeah, this is Nigeria now. This is a modern country with plenty of money. It's a wealthy nation. Okay, just put that in perspective. This is not a third world country. This is not a war torn country. But apparently they're having that I guess with these terrorists. But yeah, that's horrible. So you would think, you send your kids off to school and you would hope they're safe to, study and graduate, become something big and make good money for themselves, and something like that happens. The horror, the feeling is, I can't even fathom the feeling that must give a family, and then I know people there who go to school and they travel different places, and they go to these universities that's not near their village or their town. So they stay in these hostels. So, they could be dangerous too. Hostels are not the safest place. Sometimes they get roommates and stuff like that. But, they had one woman or young girl. Her name was Adeobi Easy. She was poisoned in her hostel. Oh goodness. It's I feel for the families. You know, especially when they're going off to better themselves, and you put all this time, effort, and money into that. So we're going to talk about real quick. We're going to talk about why this is happening. Now, the experts say that their security crisis is propelled by criminal and terrorist organizations who profit from, ransom and fear. Obviously, if they're kidnapping and kidnappings are high and kidnappings up, they are profiting from that. And there's no other reason to kidnap somebody unless it's a revenge thing, but they're demanding money. Sometimes militants are even used by politicians as pawns for election disruptions. And this is according to the experts. Just imagine if the politicians are using these people to disrupt elections and, swing votes and all of the type stuff. How can the politicians be held accountable to prevent crime or to take down these thugs that's doing all the kidnapping and the murdering? So, to add on to that, there's a rampant unemployment and poverty. Obviously, like I said, I've known people there for years, and I've heard their stories of poverty and, some of the things they go through. But again, Nigeria is a rich nation, so there's really no reason why that should happen. And I'm, there's always a solution. There's always a solution. But if you have weak law enforcement, what does that do? That creates a perfect environment for these criminal organizations to flourish, people to fear, and, who's going to fear if the police aren't going to do their job? Or you have the police that's working for crooked politicians or police working for the criminal organizations. That would get most people not to even report these incidents. Imagine living in that condition. So even aside from that, there's a huge impact on families, on society in general. You have kidnappings, murders, no trust in the police, no trust in your politicians. The top head of state is not doing enough, as they say. Families are being devastated. You can unravel the whole community. If there's no trust, you're not trusting your government, you're not trusting the people you're supposed to trust, you're not trusting your neighbors or whatever. So, who's going to report? Who's going to report? And I would probably guess that these numbers that I quoted you is probably still less than what actually occurs. And I don't want to say that it's all the military, it's all the police, because obviously we've seen some successes. We've seen them do some, well, we haven't seen it. We've read about them doing some rescue operations. You can read about it on, Google online or whatever, see the video or the news. And there have been some survivors. So, it's not everybody, and it's not, the government itself. So just with any government, and we know this in the USA, all it takes is a few people in key positions to corrupt the whole system. So, just want you guys to, keep a check on what's going on in Nigeria and consider what's going on. If you decide on traveling, that's the big thing. Look out for your family and friends that's there. Try to put pressure if you can on the government, not our government, their government, to actually do more than they're doing. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's kind of depressing. It's a depressing thing, but Anyway, I want to hear from you guys. I know I have a lot of Nigerian subscribers. Thanks to Diamond, who's in Lagos, and she, recruits subscribers for our podcast. I want to know what you guys think. Tell me, because I'm not there. Tell me what's going on, and who do you feel is responsible, and who is not being held accountable. Who's at fault, and why are these things happening? Is it the unemployment? Is it just the corruption? Let us know. You can email us at Hot Topics Podcast. That's HOTTOPIX podcast at gmail.com. Now, if you want to come on our podcast and discuss it, we can do that. You can get on our Zoom, and we'll plug you in. And if you want to talk to us directly, I'll be glad to have you. So hit us up on that email and let us know. We'll arrange so we can, because it's more impactful when it's heard from people who are there, living and experiencing what we're talking about. I'm just reading things and looking at videos and talking to people, on WhatsApp, about what's going on in their area. This is the information I'm getting. So, but I want to thank you guys for subscribing. I almost have as many Nigerian subscribers than I have American subscribers. So I want to thank you guys for subscribing. And again, we have a monthly prize or contest for the person who gets the words of the day for every episode in the month. So this is our first episode for November. So if you get at the end of the month, if you get all the words of the day and you email it to that email, hottopicspodcast@gmail.com. And if you forget, you can go to our website. I'll give you the website name. It's Hot Topics. That's HOTTOPIX podcast.com. All right. So it's the same hottopicspodcast.com. And the email is hottopicspodcast@gmail.com. So at the end of the month, if you get all those words of the day, there's a prize. Just email it. Spelling doesn't, count. So just let us know what it is, and we'll announce it on the podcast for, I guess it's November, December. And there'll be opportunity to, win something for, the holidays coming up. Christmas is coming up. So, that's our way of thanking you guys for tuning in and following us. So keep up the good work. So today's word of the day is kidnap. Yes, kidnap. I know that's a horrible word to use today, but that's the first thing that popped in my mind since we're talking about it. So today's word of the day is kidnap, and put that in your pocket, because the next few podcasts, add those up, and I'm going to give some prizes out. And you guys, as we close, just remember these statistics that we read earlier. Those are people. Those are actual people, not just numbers. Each number is a life that was cut short. A family that was waiting for news of their loved ones. The stats they're kidnapping. A father, a daughter, a mother, a son, a husband, a wife. Gone. So keep that in mind. And, I know just by reading that from May of this year, Nigeria's fight is far from over. And the only way you're going to do it if you have a united front and, let your voices be heard. That, it has to be heard from every single village, every city. You guys are TikTok users. You guys are Facebook users. You guys are Instagram users. Get out there and let your voices be heard. And, you guys can push for a real change. So I'm with you. But thank you for listening to this episode of Nigeria's Shadows. Stay vigilant, and again, share your stories and demand action.
Thank you, family, for listening to the latest episode of Hot Topics. As usual, listen, like, share, subscribe. Ta!